Yeah, it looks like now we will have a 10th player for the game tomorrow, and possibility of an 11th, but I won't have that answer until tomorrow. Um, but have real good workout yesterday. I hope we have a real good workout today. A lot of enthusiasm, excitement for the opportunity to start playing in SEC games. And we just got tested today. I just hope that, to quote our trainer Mark Roger, uh, text messages are good, phone calls are bad. So I hope I get a text message, not a phone call from him later today.
Dave, go ahead.
Frank, A&M coming in tomorrow. You and Buzz are obviously very close. What have you seen from his team as they've gotten, kind of into their conference part of the season?
Yeah, Buzz. His teams are going to play extremely connected and extremely hard. He's got guys now that have been with him going into year two. You watch them on tape. They're a lot more connected with the way he wants his teams to play. Last year, we were fortunate that we shot the three really well both times we played them. We got to make sure that our turnovers are down. Big thing for Buzz when he coaches, especially on offense, is he just all over his players to drive the basketball. The game at their place, we fouled way too much, which created problems for us. The game at home, we were a lot better at not committing some of those fouls. That's the challenge when you coach against Buzz Williams' teams, is you have to guard the basketball because they're looking to drive you from 4 and 5 spots this year, because there's times he plays. Man, I'm getting old. I can't remember names anymore. But number 5 and number 1, Flag, you would think I remember his name. He's a real good player and an established player in this league.
Miller.
And then number 5 at the 4 and the 5. And they just space you and drive you. So we have to be very disciplined defensively.
Michael?
Hey, Frank. These last couple of days, one thing that has kind of stood out to me is when we talked to both Seventh and Justin, I mean, 2 guys who are veterans on this team, and we asked them about just sort of the disadvantages of playing after not practicing and going against a team that has practice and all of that. And, both guys said it really wasn't an excuse for them. They didn't view it as a disadvantage. They said it's everybody in the country is dealing with the same thing. And I'm just curious, how important as a team is it to have that kind of mindset, when you're dealing with the situation that you guys are? And what does it say about, both Seventh and Justin and other veteran leaders that they do have that kind of mindset as they're facing this thing?
Yeah, I'm real proud of them, because that's been their approach, and that's been their mindset. That's the way I live my life. Too many people complain about what disadvantages they have, but don't get out of bed and go work to make it happen with whatever they do have. And I've always said I'm one of those. I don't worry about what I don't have. I worry about what I do have, and just the way I was raised, just the way I go about my life. Do I complain privately about some things sometimes? Of course I do. I'm a human being, but I don't do that in a public space or to create sympathy from people. I try to go out and take advantage of what I do have to make it work. And there's a pretty good connection with me and this team. There has been since last year, and I'm proud of those guys, because those are our 2 oldest players. This is Justin's 4th year in college. This is 5th year in college, and they create a mindset for everyone else to follow. And I've tried to share this before. I mean, we get to play basketball. There's people losing jobs in life in this moment. We should be grateful that we get the opportunity to compete in a game, and not trying to complain because Team A practiced more than we did. Is it perfect? No, but you know what? It's a challenge that everyone's dealing with right now, and it's whoever handles this adversity the best will figure out a way to become the best team.
Dick?
Frank, your teams have always been known to play great man-to-man defense. With the lack of practice, conditioning, and just all the things available right now, is this forcing you maybe to have to play a little bit more zone or not do some things that you really don't want to do?
Yeah, I mean, we've played more zone early in the year this year than we probably have in the past. Not so much because of the situation, but because of our team. I think our team can be a real good zone defensive team because of our length and you know, we got so many guys that are similar, so we're interchangeable. But you know, we spent a lot of time. At the end of the day, now I'm a big believer. When I speak at coaches clinics, I always speak about you have to coach to your personality. If you don't coach to your personality, it's hard to get your players to play the way you want them to play. And at the end, I'm a big man-to-man guy. I'm a big believer in aggression and pressure. We spent a lot of time yesterday. I thought we played really, really hard against Florida A&M. I thought defensively our rotations, our disciplines were not as good as they needed to be, but that was understandable. And so we tried to, like I told our players, we weren't trying to fix it. We were just refreshing it because we hadn't worked on it so long. So, you know, we'll do some of that again today. And but you know, Dick, it's the season teaches your team to become who it's destined to be. And it's how you handle the decisions I make, the adjustments I make, and how the players buy in that determines who we become and gives us a personality and an identity. Usually headed into league play, you're already becoming that. We're still trying to figure that part out. And but in the meantime, we got to figure out a way to, as we go through that process, to go win games. And that's okay. It's we're at peace with that.
Colin?
Yeah, Frank, two questions. I guess first, are you at liberty to say kind of which guys you either anticipate being back or plan to be back tomorrow?
I think Jalen will be back tomorrow.
Okay.
That's who I'm most confident about.
Okay. And I guess seventh played point against Florida A&M. What did you see from him running the point for you guys? And when you guys are back at full strength, is that a position you think he could still retain as that starting point guard spot?
Yeah, I mean, he's been a point guard his whole life. You know, he played point for us the first 3 games. And, you know, I just, because of the situation that we're in, I made the decision to start him at point. I think I shared this with you guys a couple weeks ago. I have not been happy with the consistency of our point guard play, and I'm trying to get our point guard to play better, him included. I thought he gave us stability. And that's why we brought him here. I didn't bring him here to because I think he's a nice kid. I think he's a big time human being, but that's not the reason I brought him here solely. I brought him here because, you know, last year our point guard play, you know, Jermaine took it by the horns and ran with it. You know, AJ has played point for us before. I thought we needed more stability at point guard, and he's a guy that gives us that. And so I, you know, Colin, usually I got a feel for starting lineups and rotations and all that. Right now, I just want to find out what guys can play, and then I'll kind of put it together piece by piece and one day at a time.
Chandler?
Hey, Coach, Happy New Year. Just kind of tell us, you know, heading into the SEC schedule, just where do you feel like your team is at right now? And just, you know, how can you guys kind of build on the win on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, we got great dudes on our team. I mean, I enjoy workouts. I've enjoyed being around them. This whole pandemic situation has made it difficult because I can't enjoy them off the court. because they got personality. They're hungry for lessons. They're hungry for stories. They're hungry to grow. And I can't. The pandemic doesn't allow us to be in those kind of social settings where you're not worried about basketball. It's just the world that we're in right now. And so I kind of feel cheated, because that's where I learn a lot about my guys, is in those moments off the court. So I can figure out how to help them as people. And if you can help them as people, you can help them as players. If you can only help them as players, there's a limit and a ceiling to how that relationship goes. And, and right now that's frustrating. So from that standpoint, I like our team. I like the guys, and it's frustrating sometimes. As far as who we are as a team, I got ideas, but like I just said, Jalen, for example, a second ago. Think about it. He did not practice the week leading into the Liberty game because of concussion. So then he played 2 games, practiced 3 times, played Houston, done. He hasn't, he's had maybe 2 practices since November 15th or something like that. He going into the season, he is a major, in my mind, a major contributor on this basketball team. And he had a tremendous September, October. So now here we are in the middle of it, and he's practiced, I think it's 2 or 3 times. No, that's not true. 3 times since November 3. He went through workout 4 times since November 15th. And he's a guy that I fully thought was going to have a heck of a year. I saw him taking a huge step forward as a player. So we have to kind of stick him in there and figure out a way to allow him to make the mistakes that he's going to make, because he hasn't gotten repetitions. But it's that part of it has to be force-fed this year, and that makes my job and his job, because it's both of us. We got to figure it out. Makes it a little bit more complicated.
Amanda, and then John.
Hey, Coach, it's kind of crazy to even be talking about the tournament at this point, but with the NCAA's announcement yesterday of the bubble all in one place, I'm just curious as to what your initial reaction to hear all of that was.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you asking. One of the reasons that we bumped this call back a little bit is because I was on a board call with the NABC, and that's what we were just talking about. A lot of the details that are going on behind the scenes to facilitate that. It's awesome. I think the one thing I've learned, I met Dan Gavitt when he was with the Big East, and I was an assistant coach at Cincinnati. And the one thing I can tell you is, when it comes time to basketball and organization, don't bet against Dan Gavitt. If I were anybody, I'd never bet against the name Gavitt in anything involving basketball. And having him as the guiding voice, his personality, his passion, his vision in the NCAA office is huge for our sport. And that's their baby. It's not for my place to be sharing what's going to happen. But there's no doubt in my mind that once we get there, the teams that are fortunate to be a part of it are going to have an unbelievable experience. And it's taken an unbelievable amount of planning, sacrifice, time by a lot of people to put that together, to create the opportunity to give everyone a chance to compete for a championship. So I'm ecstatic. The NCAA gets beat up a lot. I'm not one of those NCAA bashers. I don't agree with some of the things, but who agrees with any leadership? Like, especially in today's day and age, all we do is criticize leadership. Nobody ever compliments leadership. Well, the NCAA does a lot of good. And this is another example of all the good that they do. They've gone the extra mile to create an unbelievable opportunity for our sport.
John Whittle.
Wanted to ask you a little bit about Wildens. You were a little bit disappointed in him after last game with the early foul trouble. What's been your message to him these last couple of days? How's he responded, and how important is he based on what Texas A&M does in this game?
You must have heard my conversations out loud with him on the sideline, wherever you guys were sitting at last game. Because going into the game, I told him, I said, you cannot commit stupid fouls. You can't. And he goes out there and bang, bang. First, I think he had 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes of the game. And, he played better in the second half from that standpoint. And he's a young player. And he's one of those guys that he worries too much. So he gets too excited. He's got to learn how to, settle down. I don't know if I'm the right personality to get people to settle down. I'm always trying to get them to go more. But that's my challenge with him, is he gets excited enough the way it is. I need to help him settle down a little bit. And he no longer, this is his journey. He's no longer that guy that play 8 minutes and we're okay with it. He's not that anymore. He's the guy that has to, I said it after the game, we got to figure out a way to keep him on the court 25 to 30 minutes. And and it's he's got to be, like at Houston, I thought he battled his tail off, but he missed free throws and he missed opportunities at the rim. He's got to convert those, but that's part of him, the experience factor, being able to stay on the court and just grow as a player. Like, okay, I can do this. You remember Chris Silva, when he first started getting starter minutes, for lack of better words, his free throw shooting was inconsistent. His conversion at the rim was inconsistent. As that season went on, it changed. And the end of his sophomore year, we make a run in the NCAA tournament. A lot had to do with the fact that he was starting to convert at the rim and he was making his free throws. And, so it's that has to be his part of the growth. And then I got to help him get to that place. And that requires unbelievable amount of patience, which you don't stay in this business as a coach if you don't have patience. But I can tell you that's never been one of my strong suits. I kind of want to fix things now. I don't have patience to fix them 2 weeks from now. I want it now. And I think that helps me. And it's something that I've got to also fight internally to allow players to grow.
Colin and then John Doe.
Yeah, Frank, you kind of mentioned identity and trying to figure that out. Just how challenging is that when you guys shut down for a month going into conference play? How challenging is it to build it, and where do you guys feel like you are, at least offensively speaking, in terms of kind of finding that identity in that groove?
Yeah, Colin, we found out yesterday that we're the school that's been shut down the longest between 2 games. And second on that list is Towson. So we identified the problem, Bruce Shingler. So we dealt with it yesterday. Hopefully we've rectified, putting Bruce in a bubble inside the gym and not allowing him to speak to anybody. But it's hard. I've got this little saying that, in basketball, good offense is like good music. There's a rhythm to it. You hear a song that's got a bad rhythm, you change that, find a new state. Well, no one changes a station anymore. You kind of hit a button and get to a different song or whatever it may be. That's our challenge right now, is we got to find rhythm, timing, consistency, knowing the cuts, knowing the passes. You got to get that. You don't fix that in a game. You fix that in practice by repetition and repetition and repetition. And then what you learn in games is playing different styles. Then you learn to adjust against different styles. But and that's why the season, you either get better or worse. You don't stay the same. It's one or the other. And that's if you're willing to get better through reps and practice and style of playing games. And I can't be concerned with our what's the word? I'm not concerned. I have to be concerned. I can't react in a negative way to our sluggishness. I don't know if that's the right word, offensively, inconsistencies offensively, because we haven't had a chance to get repetitions. So we got to be patient. And here's the other thing, Colin, we spent a lot of time in the preseason teaching new things that we've never taught here on how to play offensively. And then all of a sudden you get shut down for a month. And just when we had made some progress, whoop, now we've got to be patient and build it back up.
John?
Frank, you've always said the key to success in league play is veteran guard play. Bouncing off of that, with the amount of forwards that you have out that are going to gradually start coming back, how important are those guards as you enter league play?
Yeah, I mean, we've got 2 guards that are proven, established winners, successful players at a high level here in AJ and Jermaine. We've added 7th, who I absolutely think the world of. Trey Hannibal is a lot better than he was last year as far as understanding college basketball and what he needs to do to help this team. And you keep going from there, whether it's TJ Moss or any of those other guys. I know I play Justin at the 4 right now, but Justin's a guard on our team. We just play with 4 guards. Justin's ability, like Justin played unbelievably hard with unbelievable courage, made some real bad passes in the game against Florida A&M. That's where all that guard play has to help us. We can't make those bad passes. We that experience at the guard spot has to help us make better passes. Like the ball not going in the basket or whatever, we got to deal with that. Late on a rotation, we're going to have to deal with that. We're going to have to survive those moments. But making a decision where to pass the ball to, that's where that veteran guard play has to kick in. And we need those guys to carry us right now. There's just no other way. No, even if we had been practicing for the whole month, as Jalen and Wildens and Zoe or whoever else grew into their established roles, because they all have new roles on the front line, those established guards are the ones that had to lead. And we got to, even though we haven't practiced, we still have to trust in that right now.
Dick?
Frank, I know there's only so many things you can do in practice every day. Are the players now able to, on their own, say, go work on their free throw shooting or work on their game mini on their own?
Yeah, this team's been great on that. I mean, they really can't do anything else, Dick. I mean, usually I'm fighting off the court distractions. And I'll leave it at that. You don't have, you can fill in the blank if you choose to get players not to do that and come in the gym instead. These guys have been unbelievable coming in the gym. I purposely have not scheduled team workouts to fulfill the 20 hours, to leave a window in there so then we can bring them in individually and spend time with them shooting the basketball. And they've been great that way. They really have. And I say this all the time. I can spend time, our 20 hours, working on free throw shooting. I did it as a high school coach my whole career. I said this a couple of years ago. I got blamed for Chris Silva shooting 40 whatever percent as a freshman. I wish somebody would give me credit when he shot almost 80% as a senior. I mean, but we can't fix that in the middle of the season and use those 20 hours there. We have to figure out, they have to figure out a way to gain that confidence by coming in here and having our voices in the back of their head when they're getting the repetitions. That's the difference between a young player and an older player. Young players need me there, like me or one of my assistants, in their ear, talking relentless to get them to learn how to do things right. Older players, that voice is in the back of their head when they're in there by themselves, trying to get the repetitions in the right way. So that's a challenge, but they've been great that way.